I'm tired.
Okay, we're starting the. Okay. Am I centered? Am I centered?
Looks good.
Right. Welcome. You got through it, Rudy? Tried them? Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time beginning after Pesach 2014. This class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Pasmosha Margaret Vogel of blessed memory. Apples from the orchard contain selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. All right, we are here on page 511. First chapter of Pekudei, and it's I think 7 pages, so we got to move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, it's a good one today. Did I say that already?
All right.
All right.
Sounds good. I'm exciting.
The walls. What happened?
Yeah, you find my call.
The walls of the Mishkan. He's very busy. You see what's going on in France?
Yeah.
Walls of the Mishkan were made of beams, 10 cubits tall, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1 cubit thick. Cubit, we don't know the exact size, but it is between 18 inches and 24 inches. So if you think of it, the beams were 15 to 20 feet tall. How high is the ceiling where we're sitting?
What, 18 feet, 18 feet?
Maybe 15.
15?
Each cinder block is 8 inches, 2/3 of a foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, I think it's 20 high at this end of the room.
Yeah.
That end of the room is higher. So 20 times 2/3, 8 inches.
20 times 2/3, that's a little under 14 feet.
About 14 feet. So this is 14 feet high.
And that's probably about 17, probably.
A little more, yeah. So, yeah. So that means that the beams were at least as tall as this room. And it's a high ceiling. So that's, and so how much does acacia wood weigh per cubic inch or cubic foot?
I have no idea.
If they're different question, if they're 15 feet tall
They're
and
not like
1.5 cubits wide, which means 2.25 feet. How many square feet? Okay, so how many cubic feet is that? In any case, so they're heavy stuff. They were secured to each other. The bottom of each board was also carved with 2 staves. Beam. The bottom of each beam was also carved with 2 staves protruding. And these were placed into 2 silver sockets. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is a stave just a protruding thing?
They carved out the bottoms at 2 wooden
they fit together
poles that protruded.
like Tinker Toys.
Who's that?
The logs kind of thing?
Who's that stranger? Think of a plug that you plug into the outlet. Okay, so those 2 things that protrude are like the 2, I guess, staves that protrude from the bottom of the beam. Welcome back, Gerson and Malcolm Zadie.
Yeah, without Wi-Fi, yeah, sure.
Where'd Abigail go?
You're there, Abigail, right?
Yep. I
For some
see.
reason it's only showing one at a time. Each socket, and they were placed into 2 silver sockets. Each socket was shaped like half a cinder block. Is that helpful?
Yeah, they fit together like Tinker Toys. Remember those?
Each socket was shaped like half a cinder block. Okay, Since there were 50 wooden beams, there were 100 silver sockets.
There we go.
Okay. So please read,
Assembling the
Alan.
power. The silver collected from those of the community who were recorded totaled 100 talents and 1,775 shekels by the sanctuary weight. The 100 talents of silver were used for casting the sockets of the sanctuary and the sockets of the entry curtain. 100 talents for 100 sockets, a talent, a socket. The word for socket in Hebrew is aden, and the plural construct, the sockets of, the form used in the passage is adne. This is spelled exactly the same as the divine name Adni, pronounced Adni. Thus, the Arizal states, know that the 100 sockets of the tabernacle are manifestations of the Sephira of Malchus, which is synonymous with the divine name Adni. The sockets were the base of the tabernacle. The boards which formed the walls were inserted into these sockets. The tabernacle, bottom. The tabernacle was, as we have noted previously,
Can you hold on there?
Yeah.
For two. The word for sockets is adanim, similar to Hashem's name, Adni. We know. Yeah, I went to. We know that Havaya is in Chachma or Tiferes, and Elokim is in Bina. The name Adni is associated with the last Sphira, Malchus, just as the silver sockets were at the bottom of the boards. In this chapter, the Arizal will connect the sockets and the number 100 with Hashem's name, Adni. Okay, go ahead.
Know that the 100 sockets of the tabernacle are manifestations of the Sephira of Malchus, which is synonymous with the divine name Adni. The sockets were the base of the tabernacle. The boards which formed the walls were inserted into these sockets. The tabernacle was, as we have noted previously, the means through which Hashem's presence was manifest in the world and in the consciousness of every Jew. It therefore was a microcosm of the entire creation. The final lowest sephira of the 10 sephiros is Malchus. Therefore, the sockets, the lowest element of the tabernacle, manifest this sephira. As opposed to the preceding 9 sephiros, Malchus has no content or personality of its own. It is not an attribute of Hashem per se, but rather the power of expression of all the other preceding attributes. Thus, it is stated in the Zohar that Malchus has nothing of its own. The word Malchus means kingdom, that is the manifestation of the preceding attributes of Hashem throughout creation, creating, informing, and organizing reality into a unified, harmonious whole. A kingdom run by a king, namely Hashem. The divine name, which expresses this lordship over reality, is, of course, Adni, which literally means my Lord. Every Sephira, being a manifestation of Hashem in the context of creation, is in effect another name of his, since the purpose of a name or title is to identify an individual in the context of the role he is playing vis-a-vis the world around him.
Okay, thank you. Now, yeah, that's a mouthful, huh? The Arizal will explain each word in a phrase. Go to the next one. This name. Now we're going to go 100.
This name possesses the numerical value of 100 as follows. The simple gematria of the word Adni, Aleph, Daleth, Nud, Yun, is 65. But through analyzing its Milui, the full spelling out of each letter, its numerical value is increased to 100. As mentioned previously, the full spelling out of a letter indicates in Kabbalah the full manifestation of all the divine power latent in that letter. The full spelling out of the name Adni, therefore, indicates the full manifestation of Hashem's power to unite creation under his rule. This again is the fullest expression of the idea of the tabernacle in general, the dissemination of the awareness and consciousness of Hashem throughout creation. In order to reach the value of 100, the name Adni must be doubly spelled out. That is, each of its constituent letters must be spelled out fully, as we will demonstrate presently. This indicates an even greater consummate revelation of Malchus throughout creation. Number 100 as well, being the perfect square of 10, the number of completion, conveys as well this same idea of super perfection.
Through analyzing its milui, its numerical value is increased to 100. As mentioned previously, we have many ways to connect a word with a number. Okay. Multiple ways. 3. The Arizal will explain each word in phrase when Moshe prayed after the sin of the spies. V'ata yigdalna koach Adni, koach Hashem. And now let the power of Adni be magnified. And over there, Moshe goes on to recite the 13 godly attributes of mercy. So he says, like, let your compassion bubble over, let it be magnified, and then you can forgive the people, you can overlook what they've done. Meaning, if the power of Adni is magnified, Hashem will be able to overlook the sin of the people with the spies. The Yud in Yigdal is one of a few letters in the Torah that are written large. Like two other examples, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The Ayin of Shema and the Dalet of Echad are also written large. The Yud here is written large. Will be magnified. Moshe prayed with the name Adni and not the usual Havaya. Okay, go ahead, Alan. The filling.
The filling of the name Adni may be done in two ways. This is indicated as well in the verse. And therefore I pray, let the power of Adni be great as you have declared. The Yud in the word be great, Yigdal, is written large. A certain number of letters of the Torah are written larger than the rest. This indicates a magnification of some kind. Here, as will be presently demonstrated, it indicates that the power of Adni is to be made great by the addition of the letter Yud to its double spelling out.
Okay. 4. What? Oh, him? Okay. 4. So how do we find the numbers in Adni? There are 4 letters in Adni with a gematria of 65. There are 12 letters in a secondary expanded spelling and 34 letters in the tertiary expanded spelling. We're all familiar with this expanded spelling. So Aleph by itself is 1, but the word Aleph is Aleph Lamed Pei is 111. That's secondary spelling. If we expand the Aleph and the Lamed and the Pei, the 3 letters that form the word Aleph, then we have tertiary expanded spelling. So there are 12 letters in the secondary expanded spelling and 34 letters in the tertiary expanded spelling. In Hebrew, 34 is dal, dalid lamed, which means destitute. Malchus has no properties of its. Before we said that Adni is connected with the last sphere of Malchus. Malchus has no properties of its own. It is comprised only of what it receives from the first 9 spheres, like someone who is destitute. The letters Dal, which is 34, and also destitute, are the last 2 letters of the word Yigdal. Let it be magnified, the word from the pasuk. So I tell you, Yigdal na, Dal is 34, the number of letters in tertiary spelling of the name Adni. Go ahead and read the next one.
This alludes to the following. The filling of this name, Adni, is Aleph Lamed Pei, Lamed Mem Daled, Pei Aleph, Daled Lamed Tav, Lamed Mem Daled, Tav Vav, Nun Vav Nun, Vav Aleph Vav, Nun Vav Nun, Yud Vav Daled, Vav Aleph Vav, Daled Lamed Tav. To simplify the construction, let us picture it graphically. And there you've got it graphically, which is the same
The
thing.
count on the right. Column on the right, the filling of the filling.
34 on the
There's 34, there are 34
there's
letters.
34 letters on the right, and there's 12 in the middle and 4 on the left, total of 50.
So
If
50? Yeah. So we're looking at the one on the right, 34 letters, only the tertiary spelling.
if we imagine the original 4 letters, Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, as defining a straight line, the first Malui would add a dimension giving a square, and the Malui would add a third dimension giving a cube.
All right, number 5. Hold on, please.
Right there,
He's right.
Florida.
Miami. You don't recognize him?
Miami.
I forgot we have a question here.
We're quiet.
Yes. Continue with the next thing. This, I know, this filling and the filling, it just gets me hungry. It sounds like a pie. Like a pie.
It does.
Little pie.
All right.
Me to start? I've got a gift.
What?
Who want to read?
You.
Me? Okay.
This filling of filling.
This filling of filling consists of 34 letters. This number being the same as the numerical value of the word for poor, Dal. This is why the name Adni, which is synonymous with the sphere of Malchus, is called the poor and destitute one. This being the concept of the opaque glass plate. As we mentioned above in the name of the Zohar, Malchus possesses nothing of its own, but merely reflects and transmits that which it receives from the preceding spheres. Prophecy is envisioned as seeing divine truth through a glass plate. Moshe's prophetic vision is said to have been as if through a transparent glass plate, while that of all the other prophets is said to have been as if through an opaque glass plate, that is either a cloudy pane or a mirror. This simply indicates that the inferior prophecy of the other prophets was transmitted through the Sephira of Malchus. They experienced divinity as it had been funneled into creation, specifically the 3 worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. Moshe, in contrast, experienced divinity directly, that is, as it is manifest in the world of Atzilus, before being channeled through Malchus. The Arizal now explains how the filling of the name Adni may be done in 2 ways.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5. One of the letters in secondary spelling is Tav. The Arizal spelled it Tav. That's Tav Vav. However, it can also be spelled tough yud vav with an extra letter yud in the middle. This is the meaning of, and then first of all, that gives us, well, we read it. This is the meaning of let the power of Avni be magnified. And as I mentioned, there's a large yud over there. So it's telling you that the yud should be added to the tertiary spelling of the letter tav. And then the word Avni will be magnified with 35 letters in tertiary spelling instead of 34. I hope this is clear.
Oh, it's clear as mud.
Okay. We found the letter.
Yeah.
Like, like calling the Secretary of State and telling him to find votes. Right? It's like we
But
found the letter.
Tav is the last letter.
Okay. All right. Garrison, you have your book.
Yeah. I have the book.
513 at the
This
bottom.
I don't know. Tell me if you can hear me. This is, however, only if the letter Yud is omitted from the spelling of the letter Tab, like this, Tab Bab. If, however, the letter Yud is included like this, Tab Yud Bab, the feeling of the feeling is then great and complete. This is being the concept of the full moon.
We had to get the moon in there.
Really?
At issue here is the sixth line of the chart above, where the tab of the Dalet of Adni is spelled out. Tab may be spelled either with or without the yud. By adding the yud, the number of letters in the spelling out of the spelling out changes from 34 to 35. 35 signifying poverty, and was just mentioned, the significance of 35 will be explained presently. One of the earthly manifestations of the sphere of Malchus is the moon. Just as Malchus has nothing of its own, the moon merely reflects the light of the sun. Just as Malchus' emptiness or fullness is dependent upon the extent to which it is funneling the content of the preceding Sephiros into creation, the moon waxes and wanes in accordance with how much it receives of the sun's light. The full moon thus signifies Malchus in its fullness, when the additional yud has transformed it from poor and destitute to great and complete. The letter yud is the first letter of the divine name Havaya, and in this context generally indicates the sephira of Chokhmah, wisdom, or sometimes intellect in general. As the Arizal explains elsewhere, this yud, which completes the spelling out of the name Adni, is synonymous with the extra measure of divine intellect that radiates throughout the world, and specifically in the Jewish soul, on the Sabbath, festivals, and Rosh Chodesh. The Arizal also explains elsewhere that the significance of the number 35 is that it is numerical value of the full spelling of the first two letters of the name Havaya, Yud and Hey, Yud plus Bab plus Dalet plus Hey plus Yud, equals 35. These two letters signify the first two sephiras of the intellect, Chokhmah and Bina. The completion and fulfillment of the name Adni, thus, is the introduction and the presence of the intellect into its consciousness or experience. This is a pervasive theme in Kabbalah, replayed many times in various contexts, that rectification of any situation or a state of consciousness is accomplished by rerouting it in the initial idea and intellectual development from which it issued in the first place. In our case, this means that in order for the dissemination of divine consciousness throughout the world to be truly effective, it must be permeated by the inspiration afforded it by the first radical awareness of the idea of Hashem. We have encountered this theme before. The feminine active principle in creation is at risk of losing its inspiration in the ongoing task of elevating the world. It therefore needs to be constantly, or at least periodically, refreshed by reliving the initial insight of godliness as divorced from any particularly worldly application.
Okay, I should have done 5 first. Thank you. One of the letters is 6. The Arizal adds this is similar to a full moon. Unlike the sun, the moon does not produce light. We can only see the part of the moon on which the sun shines and which faces us. That's that both stuff. The sun always shines on half the moon. Okay. Yeah, if you have a light in the room and you have what? Correct.
But that the half we don't see, the other half we see. The other half it shines on.
I got it. We'll explain to him. Famous album. So the sun always shines on half of the moon. Just think of shining a flashlight on a ball. Half the ball will be in the light. Half the ball will be dark. If the Earth is between the sun and the moon, then we have the same view of the moon as the sun does, and we can see the full moon. That we see the entire part that's lit up. If the moon is between the sun and the earth, then the sun is looking at the moon from one side, and that's lit up. We look at the moon from the other side, that's not lit up. We are facing the dark side of the moon. Yes, and then we call that the last day of the Hebrew month. You know how far the moon is from Earth? How far? That's a good question. 239,000 miles. The sun is about 92 million miles, 92 to 94 million miles. The other one was 239,000. So, what? Won't fit. Too big. So if the moon is not between us and the sun, and the earth is not between, if it's somewhere else in its orbit, then we're able to see a part of the part that's lit up, either a sliver, quarter, half, or 3/4 or full. So the point is that the moon does not produce light. The only way we can see it is if we see where the sun is shining on it. In this way, the moon is like Malchus, which only contains what is given to it by other spheres. So Malchus, just like the moon. Every month we say a bracha when the moon is growing, and we know the Jews are compared to the moon, who are sometimes in ascendancy and sometimes under control of other nations. A full moon at the 15th of a full moon at the 15th of the month represents the Jewish people at the top. Like in the time of King Shlomo, who was the 15th generation from Abraham. A full expansion of the name Adni is compared to a full moon. I think a full expansion of the name Adni with 35 is compared to the full moon. Now, we're on 7. Oh, don't go yet. The large letter Yud in Yigdal indicates that the 34 of expanded tertiary spelling of Adni should be magnified to 35 by adding Yud to the secondary letter Tav. Again, Dalid, Lamed, Dal, 34 are the last 2 letters of Yigdal, which means it shall be magnified. Okay, go ahead, Gershon.
This is the mystical meaning of the word be great, Igdal. We may understand it to mean, let the feeling which possesses Dal, 34 letters, and is thus defective, become great by possessing 35 letters by means of an addition of the Yud of the spelling of Tab. Therefore, the Yud of Yigdal is large to indicate this. The word Yigdal in this verse does triple duty. 1, it means become great, which here means become transformed from the 34-letter feeling to a 35-letter one. 2, it alludes to the number 34, dal, in its second syllable. And 3, the extra large yud it begins with indicates that this transformation is to take place by inserting the yud when it is initially missing. Such multiple entendres are frequent in the rich texture of the Kabbalistic understanding of the body of the holy text of the Bible. The Arizal will now demonstrate how the word Igdal alludes to both levels of filling in, the first feeling and the feeling of the feeling.
All right. Now, 8. the first two letters of Yigdal, so the last two letters of Yigdal is Dal, which is 34, and destitute, like the sphere of Malchus. The first two letters of Yigdal have no meaning, but they do have a gematria of 13. The pasuk refers to Koach Adni. It says the power of Adni. Let the power of Adni be magnified. So the name of Adni itself is the four-letter word of Hashem's, or the four letters of Hashem's name, Adni. The power of Adni refers to the secondary and tertiary spellings. It is magnified when the letter Yud is added to the letter Tav. The primary spelling is 4 letters, the secondary spelling is 12 letters, and the tertiary spelling is 35 letters. Together, the secondary and tertiary spelling contain 47 letters, the same as the gematria of Yigdal, magnified.
I'm just curious why we or the Arizal never care for the gematria of the 12 letter feeling of anyhow. So should I continue?
Why?
I mean, and I'm just
Well,
curious.
we connect the 12 and the 13.
All
We're
right.
going to do it as we go on.
All right. The word Igdal may be seen to be composed of two numbers, 13, Yud Gimel, and 34, Dalet Lamed. The name Adni in this verse refers to the simple name itself. The power of Adni refers to the feeling and the feeling of the name. Both of these feelings become great when the additional Yud is introduced into the tab, as explained previously. The first feeling is 12 letters, and the feeling of the feeling is 35 letters. Together, they comprise 47 letters. This number is the numerical value of Yigdal. Although he has just shown how the numerical value of Yigdal, 47, alludes to the first feeling, 12, plus the second, 35, well, the second magnified, the Arizal is not through yet, since the word Igdal naturally divides into the numbers 13 and 34, not 12 and 35. He will now adjust the calculation to reflect this inner structure of the word.
All right. Since 9, Rudy 9.
9.
Since the main expanded spelling of Tav is with 2 letters, Tav and Fav, spelling Tav with a Yud is less common. The word Yigdal is used, whose last 2 letters equal 34. It says that's more common. In that case, the extra Yud joins the first 2 letters. Where are you? So the first 2 letters equal 13, even though there are 12 letters in the secondary expanded spelling. And the Yud is large because it will be moved from the first 2 letters, who represent secondary spelling, to the last 2 letters, which represent the tertiary spelling. Abigail, are you ready?
Yes.
5:15 in the middle.
However,
However,
However, since the filling of the filling is usually 34 letters and only occasionally is augmented by the addition of the Yud into the Tav, its principal numerical value remains 34. The numerical value of the filling is augmented to 35 only on the Sabbath festivals and Rosh Chodesh, as we said.
okay, now there is, thank you. Please keep going.
The additional Yud thus remains separate. This is how we arrive at 13, namely the 12 letters of the first filling plus the extra Yud. This, again, is why the Yud is written large, to indicate that it is added later. And then the power of Adni is great, is as known.
Okay, thanks. 10. There is a special connection between tertiary spelling and koach, power. Just as the tertiary spelling of Adni has 34 letters, the tertiary spelling, a minute please. Hello? No. What? No, Levy's gonna pick him up at 8:05. Great, thanks for calling, bye. Just message by Wolf. Okay. Just as the tertiary spelling of Adni has 34 letters, the tertiary spelling of Havaya has 28 letters. Havaya. So, we know that Yud-K Vav-K is the power station. And certainly that's where it is the source for Adni as well. The Hebrew letters for 28 spell Chavches or power. The word in the pasuk gets used for power. Therefore, the phrase, and now let the koach, power of Adni, be magnified, implies that the tertiary spelling of Adni is key. That's where we need to look. Okay, bottom of 515.
The filling of the filling is called power, since the filling of the name Havaya consists of 28 letters, this number being the numerical value of the word for power. Koach equals Kaf plus Het equals 28. For this reason, the filling of the name Adni is called its power. It's called its power. The name Havaya is the most essential of God's names. The filling of this name is as follows. Yud, first filling Yud Vav Dalet, and then Yud Vav Dalet, the Vav.
Same as before.
No, before was Adni.
Adni, this is
And it's
Yud-K
Havaya.
Vav-K.
Yeah, what we're looking at is mainly the column on the right, the tertiary expanded spelling.
Mhm.
Why don't you count how many letters on the column on the right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28.
Okay, so that way we can confirm that it's 28.
As may be seen, the filling of the filling comprises 28 letters. Since the filling of this most essential name comprises 28 letters, and 28 is the numerical value of the word for power, koach, we generalize this to all other names and say that the filling of any name is the expression of its full power.
Okay, thanks. Since Havaya is what it is, and there are 28 letters in Havaya in the tertiary spelling, therefore 28 becomes a symbol for tertiary spelling. And so when Moshe says Yigdal na koach Hashem, a koach Adni, and now let the koach of Adni become magnified, it means that the tertiary spelling, koach, then becomes a code word for tertiary spelling of Adni. How much was it?
28.
Adni. What was the tertiary spelling of Adni?
34.
34. Havaya is
28.
28. Adni is 34.
Yep.
Or 35 if you take the extra yet.
Mhm.
Now, let's see where we go next. Where are we? 11? No, 10.
11.
11. The
11.
phrase
11.
also 11.
11.
11. The phrase also contains the word na, which can mean beseech. Here he translates it as I pray, and has a gematria of 51. The primary spelling of Adni has 4 letters. The secondary spelling has 12 letters. The tertiary spelling with the extra yud has 35 letters for a total of 51. This is the word na in the pasuk.
Mhm.
So,
When?
and in this case, the pasuk can mean, and now let the power of Adni be magnified. And with the added yud, there will be 51 letters. Okay, go ahead, Abigail.
When, however, we add all 3 together, the simple name 4 letters, plus the first filling 12 letters, and the filling 35 letters, the total is 51 letters. this being the value of the word for I pray, na, in this verse. This then is the mystical meaning of the verse, and therefore I pray, let the power of Adni be great as you have declared. When the power of this name will be augmented, as we have described by adding the yud, it will add up to 51 equals I pray. Otherwise, it adds up to only 50 letters. The Arizal will now return to the subject of the sockets of the tabernacle.
Okay, 12, 13. At the beginning, we spoke about the 100 silver sockets for the Mishkan with the word for sockets, Adanim, similar to the Hashem's name, Adni. The gematria of Adni is 65. Add the 35 letters of tertiary spelling of Adni, and we have 100, the number of silver sockets. This is because the 100 silver sockets are associated with the name Adni and the Sphira of Malchus. Continue to return.
All right, to return to the subject at hand, the numerical value of the name Adni by itself is 65. But when the number 35, the number of letters of the augmented filling of its filling is added to it, the total is 100, the number of sockets in the tabernacle. In this way, we may understand how the word for sockets, Adanim, is related to the name Adni.
Continue.
Know then that all 100 sockets of the tabernacle were manifestations of the name Adni, which is the Sephira of Malchut.
So in this chapter, thank you. In this chapter, the Arizal explained the significance of the words Yigdal na koach Adni. May the power of Adni be magnified in Moshe's prayer after the sin of the spies. Word Yigdal, to be magnified, the first two letters are 13, and that's the secondary spelling of Adni is 12. We put an extra yud there. The last two letters are Daled Lamed, which is 34, also means destitute. Destitute corresponds to Malchus, which has nothing of its own, the last Sphira. And Dal, the last two letters, Dal, is also 34. And that's the number of, again, of tertiary letters in tertiary spelling. Then we say Na, which means to pray or beseech. And that has a gematria 51. The number of, for Adni, of primary letters, secondary letters, and tertiary letters. Altogether, only they have 50, but only if you add a yud to the secondary spelling in the word tav, then instead of tav 2 letters, tav vav becomes 3 letters, tav yud vav. Then you get 51. So to magnify, I pray the koach. Koach is 28. It's the power of Adni. Power of Adni refers to the secondary spelling and tertiary spelling. The Adni itself refers to the 4 letters. This is Koach, the power of Adni is the secondary and tertiary spelling. And also it's 28. 28 refers to tertiary because there are 28 letters in the tertiary spelling of Avaya. And finally, Adni 65. And finally, Adni is the sockets. And it's 60, the gematria of 65 plus the 35 from the tertiary spelling. So basically what we're saying is that the power of Adni should be magnified by using its full spelling in tertiary spelling. And through this, I guess Adni itself becomes dominant and is able to bring forgiveness to the Jewish people, or that Hashem overlooks through this the sins, and this is also the idea of the sockets in the in the Mishkan. What do you say at the beginning? No. The stuff that I gloss over by.
They were at the base of it.
Yeah, the final lowest is Malchus. Yes, the lowest also talk about manifest the Sphira. manifestation of the preceding attributes of Hashem throughout creation that create, that inform, that organize reality into a unified, harmonious whole, a kingdom run by a king. And this is, I guess, also what the Adanim signify. Also, the whole, everything in the Mishkan is there for what? Is to elevate the world, to bring Hashem's, manifest Hashem's infinite light into the world. This is what the Mishkan is about. This is the role that the sockets, that the silver sockets play. Whew.
Can I ask a question, taking a step back?
Yes, of course.
When you go to the secondary or the filling or the filling of the filling, when you go to a third level counting, gematria, is there, what does it mean that you would look to the third level of spelling? Does it mean something? Does it mean going deeper into the meaning, into what the letters are doing? I mean, this is a really broad question that I probably should have known before the first class, but
That's a very good question. And I mentioned I gloss out? No, I zone out a little. Huh?
over is just say it quick.
Gloss over, I zone out a little when he gets to the fine print here in the commentary. But on 512, he said, this full spelling out of a letter indicates in Kabbalah the full manifestation of all the divine power latent in the letter. And therefore, this full spelling of the name Adni indicates full manifestation of Hashem's power to unite creation under his rule. And here it's not just expanded spelling to the second degree, what we call secondary spelling. It's even to the third degree. And as this shows that, like, you cut up the small pieces, you don't lose the connection. The more you see a connection, the more deeper you go, the more you cut it up into smaller pieces, and you still see a connection there. You see more of a connection. That speaks to the wholeness, completeness, to all the ideas, to creation.
Yeah.
Far permeates. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. So it is. It's going.
You know.
Deep as you can go is the third round.
Yeah. Say again.
Is the third is as deep as you can go, which makes a statement about the spies, right?
The third is the deepest that we've gone.
Oh.
We haven't had this book the fourth. There have been a few times that we go to tertiary spelling. Once we plug in the what do you call that thing? The little machine back there.
I mean,
like amplifier.
You can spell infinitely because a yud breaks down and everything always breaks down.
Everything can be spelled. You can go to the fourth level. But once we have with the amplifier that we have here, whatever it's called, once we plug it in, I can't raise the volume. I can't change the volume on my laptop. So that's why I'm not hearing so good.
Oh.
Okay.
All right.
Again, what's amazing is how many numbers we can find for a value for a word. We're finding them.
Yep.
See, like I said last week, for everybody who's groans when they hear gematria, that there are three kinds of people in the world. One group that knows how to count well, is good at math. The second group is not good at math and doesn't count well.
Me.
That's why there are three. Okay, good.
There are three groups of people in the world. Those that are good at math and those that aren't.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Thank you, Chaim.
All right, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Time.
Good night.
Good night. Oh, next week, no class. I'm
No
out of town. I'll be at a workshop in PA.
Have fun.
There's a PA guy right there. Get the door. Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night. Boom, boom.